Hi everyone, it's Maria again speaking about Lumen workouts, post-workout measurements. And I've been wanting to do this video for a while because over the last 7 or 8 months, I've experimented with lots of different workouts and obviously had different breath measurements. Let me talk first about the workouts because I have seen a progression with my weight loss, in fact, reaching my target weight with the type of workouts that I have really done as over the kind of period of time. So I actually kept a graph of my progression. So I would record my weight loss on a spreadsheet. I record every workout because I'm using a Garmin. And all of those stats are uploaded on my Garmin stats. It obviously does the sleep data, stress data, heart rate variability data. And what has been really interesting is that at the beginning, because I was kind of suffering from a burnout, stress, chronic fatigue, lots of perimenopause symptoms, I actually didn't really have the energy to do kind of long workouts. So I was tending to do more 30-minute intense cycle workouts. I've got a Stages bike at home. It's brilliant. It's got a power meter. You can connect it to Zwift. You can connect it to any of the cycling training apps, but it also has its own built-in program. So I was using that and working with my functional threshold power and obviously my heart rate. I was probably working on the intense side though with all of that. So tended to be more 75% to 85% in terms of my max heart rate. Anyway, in those first few months, I did lose weight. I lost probably between 4 and 6.5 pounds each month up to sort of January time. And then in January, I made the decision, having got my DNA test results, that I really needed to introduce strength into my regime. And I started to do Bodypump 3 times a week. And Bodypump is high reps, lower weights. Although I've got to say that having started on 5K on the bar, 2.5 on each end, 5 months on, I've got 15K on the bar. So it's all relative to your starting point and your ability when you start. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I suppose my post-workout breath measurements in those first 3 months, they were mainly twos and also some threes, but mainly twos. And I would say that threes, if you get a three after a workout, I think that's fine. You are burning both. If you get a four after a workout, it's more likely that your body has gone into more stress than perhaps it needed to. And you'll burn calories. Clearly, you're going to be burning calories. And people used to always talk about, oh, you're in fat burning zone, you're in fat burning zone. You're going to burn fat if you burn more calories than you take in, obviously. But as I've said in one of my other videos, it isn't just about your calorie intake, it's also about your automatic nervous system. It's about your hormone levels. It's about how much stress is in your system. It's about your sleep. There are lots of factors which will contribute to you being able to burn fat effectively. And I think that although I might not be scientifically qualified in any of this, what I can say is after 7 months of consistently losing weight, with my last month being the biggest weight loss, April saw my biggest weight loss, I probably can speak from a position of authority in that I've trialed these things and seen them work. So January, I introduced strength training, probably around mid-January. And between mid-January and mid-February, I had probably the fastest weight loss at that point. So I lost 8 pounds. I also started to introduce a couple of longer sessions on the bike, but at a low intensity zone. And sometimes that was on the Stages bike because the weather was pretty naff. So I'd do 90 minutes and keep it within a zone 1 to 2, which is 60 to 70% heart rate. Actually, zone 1 is 50 to 60 and zone 2 is 60 to 70. And then as you go up, I think, anyway, I need to check that. But for me, that basically meant keeping my heart rate under 100 and I think the top of my zone 2 is 119. And I introduced that, and I also started walking more. So walking more, zone 1, 2, 3 times a week, and the 90 minutes, and also the strength training 3 times a week, which was roughly an hour but if you take out the breaks, it's probably 45 minutes of work. And what I saw between February and the end of April was the weight loss sustained. And in April, I cycled 350 miles. Most of that was zone 1-2. I allowed one session a week at a higher level, so at more of a threshold level, doing some VO2 max work and also anaerobic, but really did keep most of my cycling sessions at that lower end of the scale. And then I also walked in April 100 miles altogether. So in that month, I lost £9. And actually, that month was kind of really coming to the end of the weight loss journey, because it was that month that was my last stone. And I reached my target in May. I reached my first target in May, and then I kind of thought, oh, maybe I can lose a bit more. And I stabilised out. So the workouts definitely impact on your ability to burn fat. Now, whether that shows every single time in your breath measurements is a moot point, because I can say that after most of the 90-minute workouts, and even some of the Bodypump workouts where I really was only into zone 1, and occasionally it would kind of peak at 120 for some of the exercises, the breath measurements varied between 1 and 3. But what was consistent was the weight loss. And, you know, sometimes I could accredit getting a 1 because, you know, I'd nailed the nutrition, my hormones were in the right place, and I'd nailed the workout. But I don't think there is an exact science to actually getting a breath measurement that's a 1 or a 2, except that if you do low intensity work, you're more likely to get a zone, you're more likely to get a breath measurement of a 1 or a 2. And certainly if I look back in the Me tab of post 90-minute rides or post an hour and 50-minute rides, my scores generally are 2s and 1s and occasionally 3s. The only time I've done a long ride and got a breath measurement of 4 has been when I did 50 miles and I rode it pretty much flat out, and my average heart rate was just over 80% for 3 hours and 10 minutes. And after that, I got a 4. 30 minutes after that, I still was blowing a 4. An hour after that, I was still blowing a 4. An hour and a half after that, I was still blowing a 4. Now, nutritionally, I'd actually taken on carbs before and during the ride. However, I don't think really it was the quantity of carbs I ate, because I didn't really eat that many carbs. I probably had 2 portions during the ride, and I probably had 2 portions before the ride. I think it was the pressure on my nervous system, the requirement for fast energy versus that slower burn and the body's ability to break down fat and use a fat store. The other interesting thing was, after that bike ride, it looked on the scales as though I'd gained weight. Now, I knew that was absolutely a load of rubbish because I hadn't gained any weight. There was no clothes getting tighter or anything like that. And what was really interesting was, obviously I'd have more carbs, they weigh heavier, they hold water, etc. And it was interesting over the next 4 days how my body then readjusted. So 4 days, 1 day after, I looked like I was 1.5, 2 kilos heavier, quite a bit. But come the end of the week, Thursday, Friday, my weight had dropped right down to the very lowest. So I guess I share that to say, you still, when you're burning calories, whether you have a breath measurement that's a fat burning breath measurement or you have one that's burning fats and carbs, your body is still using its energy stores, whether that's stored glycogen, whether that is fat stores. Your body is going to break down. And I guess as you get more metabolic flexible, your body's getting better at breaking down fat stores when it needs to and carbohydrate stores when it needs to. And so I share all of that because there's loads of comments in the community about, oh, you know, I've blown a 4 after a workout, and what does that mean? Well, it means your body at that point in time does probably need carbs or has needed carbs, and you haven't given it any carbs, and now it's really crying out for carbs because it needs that faster energy. Carbohydrate is broken down a lot quicker. That's why the cyclists, when they're doing the Tour de France, they don't fuel on fat snacks. I mean, they'll probably have some fat snacks in their mix, but they fuel on carbohydrate snacks and fuel because they need that faster energy. It's the same in Ironmans. They're having carbohydrate and caffeine. That's the main kind of fuel source because that's what they're needing. And I know that some people can train their bodies to be better at burning fat as a fuel for those endurance events. But most of us, it would take quite a lot of adaptation, I think, to do that. So don't be scared of your breath measurements. It doesn't mean that you're not going to lose weight because you've got a high breath measurement. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you if you get a high breath measurement. What it means is that your system at that point in time needs carbs, wants carbs, or is using carbs, and that's fine. And whether it makes them itself or whether you're using stored carbs, that's all good as well. So I'm going to sign out now. Please leave some comments, questions, anything, and I'll try and answer them. But as I said, I'm not an expert. I'm just basing all of this on my own personal experience. Enjoy using your Lumen. It's a sit rep, remember. It doesn't give you all the answers to why you're doing what you're doing.